It all starts in the high school classroom, where the teacher announces that Chin Lexuan scored 192 points, securing first place. The students are blown away by her crazy high score, calling the girl a true goddess. It is clear to the class that she will definitely be the top candidate for the region's college entrance exams. The teacher hands over the test, praising her excellent work, and receives a polite thank you in return. Meanwhile, in the back of the room, a student seems to finally wake up from a deep slumber. Yang Lin wakes up with a terrible headache, completely confused about what is happening to him. Soon the teacher turns to the boy and coldly announces that his score was 0, leaving him in absolute last place in the class. The students start mocking the situation, finding it impossible for someone in the honors class to get a 0, and hinting that he must have cheated before. At that moment, Chin Lexuan casts a side glance at the boy who is going through this embarrassment. The teacher then warns that, due to his consistently poor performance, the board decided to transfer Yang Lin to class 19. The boy is in shock upon hearing the number of his new room. Giving no room for excuses, she tells him to pack his things and go straight there, dismissing his presence from the evening study session. Holding the test with disappointment, he knows very well that going to this class means the school has completely given up on him. The whole class starts whispering that class 19 is full of troublemakers, questioning if the punishment was way too harsh. But one of the students stands up and points out that the real issue was Yang Lin ticking off Lin Xiaoguang, which motivated the school to make this heavy decision. To secure her husband's career working for the mayor, the teacher knows she has no other choice but to throw the boy under the bus. With that, she quickly changes her tone and announces that Lin Xiaoguang scored 191 points, taking second place. All excited, she asks for a round of applause to congratulate the class representative. The rich kid stands up, adjusting his jacket with a highly arrogant posture in front of his peers. He walks over to Yang Lin's desk and mocks him, asking if he is crying since he is biting his own lip so hard. Trying to avoid trouble, the boy tells the rich kid to get out of the way, but ends up having his hair grabbed roughly. Lin Xiaoguang ignores the warning and says that, as the representative, he feels it is his duty to give one last piece of advice before the transfer. Getting up in his face in a threatening tone, he calls his classmate trash and throws it in his face that the loss of his parents is no excuse to be a loser. The snob warns him to stay away from Chin Lexuan and finally accept his place as a useless outcast. Finishing his little show, he pats Yang Lin on the shoulder, telling him to work really hard down at rock bottom. Yang Lin keeps his head down, taking in the humiliation in silence for a brief moment. Suddenly, his patience runs out and he charges with a chair, warning that his rival is asking for major trouble. But the dizziness hits hard again, leaving the boy with absolutely zero strength to finish the swing. Taking advantage of this weakness, Lin Xiaoguang blocks the impact using only his arm without breaking a sweat. Wasting no time, the rich kid lands a heavy kick that sends Yang Lin flying, laughing at his total lack of fighting skills. So he doesn't look like the bad guy in the situation, Lin Xiaoguang announces out loud to everyone that it was just self-defense. Right after, he starts continuously roughing up his fallen classmate in front of the entire room. Seeing how out of hand the scene is getting, Chin Lexuan demands that the teacher take action and stop the mess. But the woman hesitates, fully aware that the student crossed the line, except the fear of ruining her husband's job paralyses her. In a cowardly move, she decides to walk extremely slowly just to give the attacker time to keep hurting the boy. On the floor, Yang Lin can barely stay conscious, feeling his mind turn into a complete mess on the verge of bursting from the pain. The strain is so great that his vision starts fading to black. Inside a deep, dark space, a mysterious voice begins calling out the name Chu Tianming over and over. The boy seems to float in this void, not understanding where the call is coming from or who that name belongs to, until clarity hits his mind, and he finally realizes that Chu Tianming is his true identity. Memories of a past life surface, revealing that he was once an absolute cultivator who battled against the heavens themselves. However, right at the moment he was about to reach immortality, he suffered a heavy ambush from countless enemies. With his body ruined, he had to use a secret technique to save his spirit before reincarnating into this new reality. As a result, his memories ended up sealed by the technique and will only return little by little as he regains his power. Waking up on the classroom floor, the MC opens his eye with determination and accepts that from now on he will live as Yang Lin. Suddenly, the attacker gets a massive scare when surprised by a lightning-fast movement. Using inexplicable strength, Yang Lin lifts the rich kid by the collar, ignoring his desperate yells telling him to let go. Terrified, the teacher orders the MC to drop her favorite student that very instant. With a freezing glare, he calls her out for being biased and states he feels extremely ashamed to have her as the teacher in charge. The woman even falls to the floor out of pure fear, feeling a chill down her spine facing the young man's terrifying, transformed aura. Keeping his cool, the boy warns her that he will grant her wish to let her little pet go. Without a single drop of pity, he throws the snob face first into the desk with a heavy slam. The teacher screams, demanding that he go to class 19 right away, swearing she will get payback for this audacity. Unfazed, the MC agrees to leave but proposes an ultimate bet. He declares that if he takes first place in the whole school on the next test, she will have to resign, and if he loses, he will leave the school on his own. The entire room goes wild thinking he lost his mind, since a student who scored a 0 has absolutely no chance of reaching the top so fast. The bruised rich kid and the teacher burst out laughing, considering that proposal the most ridiculous and cocky thing in the world. Deep down, the MC knows very well that as soon as he gets his true power back, grabbing first place will be a walk in the park. Focusing his attention on the teacher, he asks in an intimidating manner if she accepts the challenge. Certain that the boy will fail embarrassingly, she accepts the bet while laughing, criticizing his lack of talent to back up such big talk. After sealing the impossible bet, the boy turns his back and starts walking toward the classroom exit. Tossing his backpack over his shoulder, he leaves a clear warning for the woman to make sure she doesn't regret it when she goes down. Full of rage, the teacher replies that he shouldn't come crawling back in tears when he loses terribly. Out in the school hallway, Chin Lexuan runs hurriedly, trying to get the MC's attention so he waits up. From inside, Lin Xiaoguang watches the scene full of bitterness, cursing his rival over whatever trick he pulled to attract the pretty girl. The day goes on peacefully in the school courtyard after the shift ends. Walking with clenched fists, Yang Lin reflects on his new life and promises that this time he will keep everything firmly under his control. The girl joins him on his walk and suggests they head home together, since they are going the same way. The boy is a bit confused, trying to figure out why she is being so direct and close out of nowhere. Further ahead, just outside the school grounds, a luxurious sports car sits parked on the side of the road. Leaning on the hood of the vehicle, the vengeful rich kid chats with a shady-looking guy. Without hesitating, he orders the driver to run Yang Lin over with the car to make sure the boy gets wrecked. The henchman asks, worried if they won't trace the crime, but the snob guarantees his dad's power will cover everything up as a tragic accident. Convinced he will get away with it, the man gets in the car and grips the steering wheel, ready to put the boy in a wheelchair. Completely oblivious to the imminent danger, the MC takes his first steps onto the crosswalk to cross the street. The sports car's tires screech loudly on the asphalt as the driver floors the gas pedal. Walking calmly across the crosswalk, the MC doesn't even notice the immediate danger approaching from behind. At that moment, Chin Lexuan goes into absolute panic and screams at the top of her lungs, warning him to watch out. Hearing the loud warning, the boy stops in his tracks as he notices the vehicle speeding right at him. Keeping totally calm, he focuses his eyes and takes a serious stance in the face of the unavoidable threat. Wasting no time, Yang Lin unleashes an insane aura of energy and states that those guys are just ants trying to knock down a tree. With a subtle two-finger motion, he directs all this newly awakened power straight into the ground. Inside the vehicle, the henchman goes into a total panic, not understanding what kind of bizarre force is glowing on the road. A brutal circular gust of wind completely swallows the sports car, lifting its wheels off the ground. The whole vehicle is hoisted and suspended in midair right in front of the boy, who doesn't move a muscle. Desperate about the situation, the driver tumbles out the door and yells for Lin Xiaoguang to run out of the way. The snob goes into shock seeing the metal chassis flying his way and begs in terror for it to stay away. With a massive crash, the car rolls over and violently slams against the side of the road, turning into a pile of scrap. Soon, Chin Lexuan runs over, very worried about her classmate, but he calmly assures her he didn't get a scratch. Curious about the absurdity of the scene, she asks what just happened there, while he simply figures the guy wanted to show off at the wheel and ended up paying for it. Deep down, the MC feels his mortal body completely drained from forcing such an advanced technique. Exhaustion hits so hard that he collapses in the middle of the sidewalk, making Chin Lexuan rush desperately to catch him. Hours later, night falls quietly over the city while a calm vibe takes over a local hospital. An older man approaches the stretcher, relieved to see the boy finally wake up from blacking out and asking how he feels. The MC assures him the sickness has passed and takes the chance to ask who is responsible for bringing him there. The man explains that his little girlfriend did him the favor and already left, noting that the girl cried a lot out of worry in the waiting room. Immediately, Yang Lin asks Uncle Zhu not to make up stories since they are just classmates, while the older man laughs and lets him know he already covered the medical bills. The boy knows well that his neighbor went through a lot because of his ex-wife, who schemed to steal everything from him and even left their little daughter for him to raise alone. Thinking about his own life, the MC remembers that he was abandoned right in his first days after birth and ended up taken in by a lovely family. However, a fatal car tragedy took the lives of these adoptive parents 3 months ago, which completely sank his school performance ever since. Bringing his mind back to the present, he realizes that his current body is way too weak and urgently needs a power boost. At that exact moment, a nurse walks into the room, calmly announcing it is time to change the patient's bandages. Standing next to the bed with a tray, she politely asks the young man to roll over on his back to make the job easier. Without suspecting any danger, he naturally agrees and begins to settle into the mattress, turning his shoulder. Suddenly, the boy's look changes drastically, as he senses an incredibly strong hostile intent coming from the woman. The nurse brutally attacks with a scalpel right on the bed, but the MC rolls quickly to the floor and dodges the blade by a hair. Surprised by his unbelievable reflexes, she raises the sharp weapon and comments that he is definitely not just any ordinary kid. Irritated by the ambush, Yang Lin demands to know who she is and what is the reason for trying to end his life so cowardly. Completely ignoring his questions, the attacker charges again, stating that a target about to disappear doesn't need to know anything. Facing imminent danger, the boy concludes he has no time for slow training and needs to force a body refinement right away. Using the foundation from his past life, he summons the energy stored in his soul to try to evolve and strengthen his current physical frame. However, he understands that pulling this off alone in a world with such weak energy will be an extremely tough task. Taking advantage of his distraction, the fake nurse leaps in for the attack, mocking that acting all mysterious will only speed up his defeat. The MC crosses his arms to take the frontal hit, deciding to use the sheer force of her blows to forcefully trigger his own bodily evolution. The woman is totally shocked to see that her armed charge was stopped while he had his eyes closed, thinking it was pure luck. Goading his enemy to finish the job, he tells her to attack again, taking a high, fast kick in response. Absorbing the impact without backing down, the boy feels the method working perfectly, since the extreme pressure makes him shatter his body's own energy shackles. With absolutely zero mercy, the attacker lands a solid hit right on the side of her target's neck. Right after, she goes for another armed thrust from below, but is left totally clueless as to how her arm got blocked by the boy's legs. With his defense locked in, Yang Lin flips his body upside down and returns a powerful sweeping kick at his enemy, thanking her for the valuable training help. With the solid impact from his leg, the fake nurse is thrown violently straight into the hospital room wall. Wiping her bruised face from the blow, she gets deeply annoyed by the boy's irony in thanking her for the strike. Anger takes over the woman's face as she warns him with a furious, sadistic look that he just completely crossed the line. Pulling out a firearm from under her uniform, she admits there is something bizarre about his moves, but promises the game ends right there. Pointing the barrel at her target, she states with blind conviction that human reflexes will never be faster than a lethal shot. At that exact moment, the MC's eyes glow in an intense golden shade as his visual perception speeds up to the extreme. With a precise, minimalist head movement, he perfectly dodges the bullet's path at the last possible second. The attacker freezes in shock right then, paralyzed and in complete disbelief that anyone could pull off such a crazy stunt. Coldly analyzing the weapon through the smoke, the boy deduces she belongs to the underworld, but still doesn't understand why he would become a target for these people. Desperate not to fail and blaming it on luck, the woman fires an endless barrage of shots at him, aiming to leave no way out. To escape the lead trap, the MC leaps backwards through the hospital's glass window, shattering everything in his path toward the street. While falling through the air amidst the sparkling shards, he tries to connect the dots to figure out what kind of heavy hitters a mere student could have as enemies. Gripping firmly onto a building pipe to slow his free fall, he finally understands that the woman's mission was to silence him for good. Sliding quickly down the metal structure until reaching the lower floors of the facade, he concludes there is only one obvious explanation for all this happening right now. With a light and highly controlled jump, the boy lands perfectly on the empty sidewalk without putting any strain on his joints. Staring fixedly at the upper floor, he finally deduces that the recent tragedy that took out his adoptive parents was nothing but a staged accident. Covered once again by the bluish aura, the boy dashes down the asphalt, acknowledging that forcing his evolution left him very unstable and he needs to recover before investigating this dirty business. Like a true, untamed bolt of energy, he vanishes slicing through the night sky at high speed, leaving only a flash behind. Back in the wrecked room, the attacker nervously reports on her cell phone that she was made, hearing her contact call her useless for not handling what was supposed to be an amateur job. Looking frustrated through the broken window, she calculates the drop from the 7th floor and assures the boss that the target likely didn't survive the crash to the ground. However, surprise takes over her face when she looks at the sidewalk and notices there is no body down there at all. The next morning, the worn-out door sign reveals the dreaded high school class 19. The vibe inside is pure student chaos, full of rowdy kids fighting, throwing punches, and completely trashing the desks without caring about the rules. Walking calmly along the outside walkway, the MC reflects on his intense night, satisfied with having reached strength stats that far surpass everyday humans. But a sharp pain hits his forehead, reminding him that the scarcity of energy in this world made yesterday's rush technique dangerously unstable in his system. Deep down, he knows all this accumulated power is rushing frantically through his bones, and if he doesn't find a way to control it soon, the internal pressure will be fatal. Finally arriving at the new room with his backpack on, he gets blocked by a pretty hefty student who warns him that this place isn't friendly for preppy kids. Taking a closer look at the visitor's face, the guy gulps and quickly recognizes the famous former top-ranked student whose grades took a nosedive. Keeping his usual bored expression, Yang Lin agrees with the reputation and just confirms he was recently transferred to that dump. Taking a chill bite out of his snack, the big guy drops the tough act, introduces himself as Yan Hua, and tells the new kid to feel free to pick any open desk in the back. The MC assumes he can sit anywhere, since the teacher doesn't care about assigning seats in that abandoned room. Yan Hua walks over and explains that Class 19 is so neglected that they can even hop the back fence to skip school without anyone batting an eye. The big guy keeps talking, saying the other teachers barely step foot in there, just tossing them a few tests so they can pretend they are studying. Just then, a knock sounds at the door calling the new kid out for a quick word. Stepping out into the hallway, Yan Hua is completely shocked to recognize Qin Lexuan waiting outside the classroom. The other troublemakers are equally stunned, unable to believe that the school's true goddess came all the way to that dump just to see him. Watching the scene with a hint of jealousy, the big guy wonders why such a popular girl would be chasing after a transfer student. Meanwhile, in the back of the room, an intimidating student with scars stretches in his chair looking quite impatient. With a threatening vibe, he mutters that it is finally time to teach the kid the lesson the rich boy ordered. Outside, the girl shows huge relief upon seeing her classmate is okay, even commenting that he seems to have gotten a bit taller. Aware that this is the result of his recent physical enhancement, the MC mentally praises her sharp observation skills. Very thoughtfully, she hands over her own notebooks, suggesting the material will be really helpful so he doesn't fall behind. After dropping off the valuable help, the young woman quietly says goodbye and hurries back to her own class. Right after she leaves, heavy footsteps start echoing through the hallway, heading straight for the MC. The scarred brute stops right in front of Yang Lin, taking a totally hostile stance and ready to cause trouble. The troublemaker looks the new kid up and down, checking to see if he really is the famous student everyone is talking about. Not letting the guy's size intimidate him, the boy stays calm and coldly asks who the guy standing in front of him is. Yan Hua quickly pops up again, whispering that the bully is named Wang Hai and makes a living shaking down people for cash. Ignoring the introductions, the brute roughly grabs the MC's collar and demands to be paid 1,000 bucks by the next day. Just to make the warning crystal clear, he raises his fist, threatening to cause serious bodily harm if the money doesn't end up in his hands. The MC just shoots a freezing glare at the aggressor, straightforwardly ordering him to take his hand off his clothes. Used to seeing everyone trembling in fear, the big guy falls silent, totally confused by the kid's sheer audacity. Losing his patience for good, Yang Lin firmly grabs the bully's arm and repeats the warning not to touch him. Furious at the lack of respect, the brute steps in with a heavy punch, determined to rough up the new kid right there. However, the boy's eyes shine with a dangerous intensity, showing that he has the situation under total control. With a smooth body movement, he flawlessly dodges the impact and lets the strike sail right through the... Internally, he acknowledges that his current body is reacting much faster than expected due to the forced enhancement he went through. Seizing the enemy's massive opening, the boy decides to test his strength and lands a lightning-fast punch straight to the big guy's torso. The power of the attack is so ridiculous that the brute is sent flying, soaring through the air while cursing from the pain. The bully crashes hard onto the classroom floor, and the MC walks up feeling satisfied, noting that he is getting the hang of this new body. Taking calm steps, the boy quickly figures there is no reason to face this hostility for free, and concludes someone else ordered the hit. Completely humiliated and full of fury, the big guy tries to get back up, shouting heavy words at his opponent. But before he can even stand, he gets crushed right back to the floor by a relentless follow-up from the MC. Feeling his own weight give out, the bully can't understand how a skinny kid can pack such terrifying physical strength. With zero patience, the boy grabs the attacker's head demanding to know who gave the order, while the big guy realizes just how badly he was lied to about the target. Sweating cold, the troublemaker tries to make up that he acted alone to grab some cash, aware that snitching on the rich kid would cost him dearly. In his mind, he remembers the ruthless actions of the real mastermind and the terror he feels about crossing someone so dangerous. Catching the lame lie, the MC warns him with an icy look that he will not repeat the question a third time. With a commanding move, he forces the brute's face against the hard hallway floor to pin him down for good. The impact leaves the bully completely dizzy, feeling the consequences of not cooperating right away. Casually going through the defeated guy's pockets, Yang Lin states that his silence already made it clear who the real culprit of this mess is. Grabbing the big guy's phone, he lights up the screen and finds the incriminating messages confirming his theory. Reading the contact name out loud, he finally proves that his old acquaintance from the honors class was the one who set the trap. Leaving the troublemaker dumped on the floor, the boy starts walking away while hearing his classmates praise his brave attitude. The whole class cheers about what happened with excitement, feeling huge relief seeing the tyrant get a taste of his own medicine. The kids in the room are extremely impressed by the new guy's strength, talking amongst themselves about the surreal scene they just witnessed. Hyped up by the plot twist, the leader of the group suggests following the MC to watch the rest of this drama unfold up close. Quickly, the curious crowd marches in a pack down the school hallways ready to catch the rest of the show. The focus soon shifts to the main honors class, where the evening study session is happening in an apparently calm vibe. Sitting comfortably at his desk, the vengeful rich kid taps on the table resting his leg, completely clueless about the storm heading his way. Annoyed while checking his phone, he wonders why the bully he hired is taking so long to report back. Suddenly, the quiet study time is shattered by a super loud ringtone echoing throughout the room. Embarrassed in front of his hardworking peers, the snob stands up apologizing for the slip-up and making excuses that he forgot to lower the volume. But to his massive shock, he hears the MC's voice right behind his back, complimenting the questionable music taste of his chosen ringtone. The preppy guy's face goes pale the very second he recognizes exactly who is speaking behind him. Turning around in shock, he nervously asks what his rival is doing there since he was supposed to be rotting in the worst class. Trying to get his arrogance back, the rich kid laughs mockingly, assuming the boy got beaten badly and came looking for blind revenge. Keeping up his elitist speech, he tells the MC to know his place as a loser and beat it as fast as possible. Unbothered, Yang Lin claps back at the provocation with sarcasm, while tossing a heavy object onto his rival's desk. With a sharp look, he asks how someone so focused on studying like him would have direct contact with the biggest troublemaker in school. The snob steps back visibly anxious, trying to pretend he has absolutely no clue who this supposed troublemaker is. Quickly calling out the lie, the MC reaches into his inside pocket, questioning his classmate's selective memory loss. Right in front of the coward, he shows off the confiscated phone, proving he already knows every detail of the setup. The device's screen glows brightly, showing that a direct call to the rich kid's personal number was just placed. In that exact second, the loud ringtone starts echoing through the room again, coming straight from the preppy guy's pocket. Using the same formal title from the messages, the MC asks in a dark tone if the situation is finally clear. Faced with irrefutable proof, the students start murmuring, pressuring their classmate to own up to his mistake publicly if he is a real man. The whole room turns into a collective jury, demanding he stop acting like a coward hiding his dirty tricks. Cornered by the embarrassment, the rich kid panics, knowing he urgently needs some authority figure to bail him out of this mess. Right at that tense moment, the teacher storms into the room yelling and demanding to know the reason for all that noise during study hour. Spotting the crowd, the woman immediately recognizes the transferred boy and changes her tone, demanding explanations for the intrusion. Jumping at the chance, the snob begs for immediate protection, ordering her to act fast against the bold student. Seeing the whole act start up again, the boy moves at high speed, warning that he is going to collect the interest on the debt first. With a very agile sweeping move, he hits his rival's supporting crutch, completely throwing the guy off balance. The impact instantly wipes out the rich kid's balance, making the teacher scream as she watches his pathetic fall. Lying on the floor with his pants down after the hit, the snob is paralyzed by the sheer embarrassment in front of the whole class. Shocked by the disgrace, the teacher stutters asking what the MC is doing, already figuring her authority just went down the drain right there. The entire class bursts into laughter mocking the rich kid, making ruthless jokes that his lack of physical talent is a total letdown. Satisfied with the damage done, Yang Lin turns his back looking bored and announces he will let the crowd enjoy the show in peace. Desperate, the woman tries to call the boy back to explain himself, aware that he offended the VIP student and sank her own husband's career. Consumed by rage while fixing his crooked glasses, the rich kid secretly swears he will make his rival pay dearly for such a humiliation. Later on, the sun begins to gently set over the campus trees, marking the end of classes. Walking slowly through the streets, the boy reflects that he urgently needs to craft a pill to control the chaotic energy unlocked inside his body. Checking his phone on the way, he quickly gets bummed out realizing that the necessary ingredients cost an absolute fortune nowadays. At that moment, memories from his past life surface, where he used to cultivate rare items by the bunch and considered century-old herbs as useless junk. But now, being just a broke student with zero resources, he complains about not even having the cash to buy the most basic ginseng at the market. Suddenly, the young man stops walking in the middle of the street after catching a very suspicious sound thanks to his enhanced senses. In a dark alley nearby, a scared little girl finds herself cornered by a massive, bald man with a threatening attitude. Squeezing a teddy bear, the child cries out desperately calling for her dad while backing away in terror from that strange guy. Annoyed by the screaming, the criminal pulls out a knife complaining about the noise and revealing cruel intentions to take the little one to an isolated spot. With zero pity, the brute steps forward with the blade saying he changed his mind and will finish the girl right there. At that very instant, Yang Lin appears like a flash and pushes the violent attacker far away from the child with a solid block. Glancing quickly behind him, the MC instantly recognizes the little girl as Yur, the daughter of the kind neighbor who paid his hospital. Trying to calm the kid down, he asks what happened, and she tearfully explains that she lost her dad while trying to buy food. Getting his balance back after the shove, the criminal rants furiously asking where this blind brat came from trying to ruin his plans. Analyzing the enemy's resilience, the boy deduces that the sheer brute force of that man easily surpasses the limits of a normal person. Ignoring the student's calm stance, the dangerous guy attacks again with his knife drawn, demanding to know if he is deaf. From the attacker's insane look, the young cultivator picks up a lethal intent identical to that of the worst ruthless villains he defeated in his past life. With a quick leg block, he stops the big guy's advance, noticing that this guy's strength tops even that of the fake nurse from the hospital. While trading blows in the narrow alley, the MC strongly suspects the villain is some kind of trained martial artist. Taking a bit of distance to assess the situation, the boy concludes his current body is still too weak to win a dragged-out fight. Taking advantage of the smallest opening, the criminal leaps furiously aiming a heavy, destructive knee strike right at the student. With a quick slide backward, Yang Lin dodges the brutal impact, but gets genuinely worried the little girl might end up hurt if the fight drags on too long. Aware of his opponent's level, he calls the big guy out on having already taken many innocent lives, getting an ironic smile of confirmation. Without hiding who he truly is, the assassin charges one more time with his blade, warning that he can't let him leave alive after that discovery. Leaping in for the finishing blow, the bad guy brags about having 32 victims under his belt and claims with absolute certainty that the kid will be the next one. Shielding the shivering girl behind his back, the MC understands dodging is impossible and decides to resort to his hidden strength. A light gust of wind blows through the quiet alley, causing some dry leaves to slowly fall from the street trees. Using his fingers like tweezers, Yang Lin catches one of those leaves midair, ready to channel his immortal power into a decisive move. He pours pure energy into the piece of plant and flicks it in a sharp motion, secretly hoping his unstable body won't collapse under the pressure. Immediately, the fragile leaf turns into a glowing streak that slices through the space at a completely absurd speed, impossible to track. The impact sweeps through the air and hits the big guy square in the shoulder, leaving him paralyzed in shock from the sudden piercing. Without losing the momentum of the energy, the makeshift projectile goes right through the attacker's flesh and buries itself deep into the concrete wall of the neighboring building. Dropping to his knees with tearing pain, the criminal drops the knife and calls the student a martial arts master, completely terrified. Keeping his cold, superior aura, the boy just mocks the man's ignorance inside his own mind regarding the true manipulation of spiritual energy. Right at that victorious moment, the loud sound of police sirens tears through the neighborhood's silence, rapidly approaching the scene of the fight. To avoid being interrogated by the authorities, Yang Lin lands a surgical kick to the downed villain's head, knocking the guy out cold for good. With an indifferent look at the body lying on the ground, he mutters that mortals should handle their own problems from there on out. Holding Yur's trembling little hand with total care, he sweetly lets her know it is time to go find Uncle Zoo somewhere safe. However, just a few steps after walking away from the mess, the boy's look fades into an expression of pure shock and panic. A mouthful of blood violently escapes the MC's mouth, making the poor little girl desperate as she watches him clutch his own chest. Giving in to the extreme weakness, he drops to his knees, realizing that the drop of power he used sent his life energy into destructive chaos. The pain is so overwhelming that his eyes glow in agony, certain that his organs will burst if he doesn't contain the pressure soon. Recovering his strength on pure survival instinct, he starts walking again with the girl, determined to create a stabilizing remedy as fast as possible. The biggest hurdle hits his mind right after, since his total lack of cash stops him from buying natural treasures fit for the recipe. Trying not to scare the kid, he covers up his sickness, making up an excuse that he is starving and suggests they stop by a convenience store together. Actually, a brilliant idea just lit up his mind on how to improvise the rare ingredients using cheap stuff from the street shop. Guiding the little one by the hand, the duo speeds up their pace down the empty sidewalks toward the nearest store around there. Meanwhile, back at the alley, the red and blue flashing lights from the cruisers take over the streets surrounded by police tape. A serious-looking investigator wearing a long trench coat walks calmly toward the hefty criminal dumped on the asphalt. A uniformed officer approaches the boss, helpfully asking if the forensics team has managed to confirm the identity of the restrained guy. Pulling up the info, the detective reveals it is a lethal crook wanted nationwide, finding it surreal that someone wiped the floor with him. The lawman narrows his eyes, intrigued, racking his brain to figure out what absurdly strong person would be roaming that average neighborhood. The sweep team quickly reports that the area is secure, but they find it weird that there is no weapon or heavy object lying around. With no patience for beating around the bush, the investigator takes the cigarette out of his mouth and tells the cop to get straight to the point about what they actually found. Pointing to the concrete wall just above, the officer points out that the clean wound on the villain's shoulder was solely caused by a leaf stuck up there. The captain drops his cigarette from his fingers in utter disbelief, needing to confirm out loud if he actually heard the word leaf come out of the rookie's mouth. Scratching his chin, perplexed by the impossible scene, the man tries to picture what kind of crazy figure could turn a piece of a plant into an armor-piercing shot. Determined to solve this bizarre puzzle, he instantly orders his subordinates to track all the street cameras to find the one responsible. Far away from all this drama, the MC drops a bag full of ingredients on his table at home, relieved to have left Ewer safe with her dad. Standing alone in his cramped kitchen, he curses the lack of cash that forces him to try and pull off absolute miracles with such poor resources. With no time for deep regrets, he turns on the stove burner under a clay cooking pot, heavily improvised for the task. On the counter next to it sit cheap roots and modern substitutes for rare herbs he bought, trying to mimic the healing effects he needs. With a precise, mystical hand gesture, he uses the power of his own soul to magically levitate the products straight into the hot pot. The water boils violently while he mutters, fully focused, that the main and hardest part of alchemy will test the limits of his control right now. Releasing a massive blue aura that takes over the entire room, the boy tries to tame the uneven stove fire by sheer willpower. But the homemade pot gives out way too fast under the tremendous pressure of the power and explodes with a scary bang, scattering flames through the kitchen air. Covered in smoke and soot up to his forehead, Yang Lin notes that handling everyday utensils requires a delicate touch he still can't maintain. Refusing an incoming defeat, he grabs another container from the cabinet, celebrating his own cleverness in stocking up generously on weeds from the store. Outside on the empty street, the apartment windows rattle with a new boom, followed by his stubborn yells promising he will try again. Exhausted after so many failed attempts, the boy wipes the sweat off his face, keeping his total focus on the process. Finally, the pot glows brightly and he lifts the newly created pill, cheering that the job actually worked. But a sharp pain hits his head right away, reminding him that his mortal body has blocked circuits, and the chaotic energy keeps messing everything up inside. Wasting no time, the MC tosses the makeshift medicine straight into his mouth and swallows it down. Sitting on the kitchen floor the very next second, he gets ready to digest the pill and force his energy pathways to open up. A bluish aura begins to flow through his body, tracing the passages being forcefully purified. The process causes a crazy burning sensation, and the boy groans in pain surrounded by intense flames, but acknowledges that this discomfort is proof the alchemy is working perfectly. Hanging tough, he focuses on absorbing all that intensity without backing down a single inch. Soon, the storm of power clears up and he breathes a sigh of relief on the floor, declaring the procedure an absolute success. Standing up in the middle of his wrecked kitchen, the young man figures the crisis was only temporarily solved, since that weak body won't handle the future growth of his power. Looking closely at his own hands, he realizes he needs to get a lot of money fast to buy high-quality herbs and refine better meds. Just then, a heavy wave of tiredness hits and he walks through the house yawning, remembering he spent the whole night awake testing ingredients. The burnout is so real that he collapses on the living room couch and passes out into a deep sleep instantly. Hours later, the cell phone left on the coffee table starts ringing endlessly, breaking the apartment's silence. Waking up startled, he answers a call from Chin Lexuan, who frantically asks where the boy is, since the tests are about to start and the bet with the teacher is on the line. Totally in shock for having forgotten the commitment, the boy throws his jacket on in a hurry and runs down the building stairs. Reaching the ground floor, he flies past the lobby where his older neighbor is chilling. The man thanks him for helping his daughter the night before, but the student yells mid-sprint that he is super late for a test and can't chat. The kind neighbor offers him a ride to school, but the young man turns it down, yelling from afar that he can get there much faster on foot. Completely clueless, the older man stands there with a confused look on his face, watching the boy's sudden disappearance. Using his newly awakened energy, the MC dashes through the city streets like a true blue blur, almost invisible to average eyes. Soon the scene shifts to the infamous Class 19, where the students are already seated waiting for the test to start. Standing at the door, Yanglin finds it weird that teacher Zhang Hongxin herself is the one handing out that math exam. Jumping at the chance, the woman mocks his tardiness, calling the student a failed genius and asking if he is too scared to come in and score 0 again. Keeping a bored expression, the boy points out that the rules allow a delay of up to 15 minutes and asks if that is correct. Walking calmly to his own desk, he announces he will use that time limit to review the material outside before starting. The teacher bursts out laughing, calling the attitude ridiculous and swearing he won't learn a thing in such a short time, telling him he should just go home. Ignoring the laughs, the MC opens his textbook, reflecting that his academic performance crumbled due to his recent grief and the toxic vibe of that school. However, with his body fully purified, his mental skills evolved to a level of perfect photographic memory, allowing him to absorb dozens of pages in seconds. Annoyed seeing the boy flip through the material at an impossible speed, the woman warns that if he even gets close to the top 10 in the school, she will do a backflip and eat dirt. Closing the book with a thud, the boy announces that his ultra-fast review is officially done. Walking into the room with a solid posture, he passes by the woman hoping she doesn't forget the heavy words she just spit out. Exactly 15 minutes later, the student's hand glides quickly across the page, solving all the complex questions with absolute precision. Wasting no time, he turns in the test and lets her know he is completely finished, leaving the proctor complaining that he must have given up and left it blank out of pure shame. Completely sold on her own theory, the teacher crosses her arms and mutters that the kid only knows how to fake confidence to try and look good. On the next subject's test, it only takes another 15 minutes for the MC to finish the exam and calmly leave the room. The scene repeats flawlessly during the English exam, handing the sheets over to the person in charge before the normal time even gets going. Keeping up the insane pace, one more exam is devoured in the record time of 15 minutes, and he walks toward the building's exit. Through the school hallways, the other students start gossiping, shocked by that bizarre speed, guessing he is definitely turning everything in blank on purpose. Walking down the stairs calmly, the young man says "excuse me" to pass through a group of well-dressed men blocking the way. The group leader, wearing a long trench coat, confirms Yang Lin's name, catching the student totally off guard with the approach. The gossiping kids in the hall go into shock when they realize there are actual cops roaming the school and instantly figure the new kid got himself into huge trouble.